Hello everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you very much for joining me here today. This is your one-stop shop for cryptocurrency analysis, among other things. Now we're taking a look at Ethereum Classic again. Now I know I just looked at this yesterday, but my community asked me to go ahead and cover it again because of the recent price action. So we can go ahead and see, where the support and resistance levels are and kind of, predict essentially what's going to happen next based on the previous history, right? So Ethereum Classic is a special case, and I want to make sure we keep a close eye on this here for you. So thank you again to my community for reaching out. Furthermore, I'm not a financial advisor. This is for educational purposes only. I have years of trading experience, mind you. However, I always recommend you doing your own research, okay? Please always do that. And if you'd like $25 in Bitcoin from Voyager, feel free to reference that, as well as my Patreon account, show your support, and of course, my Telegram community, my awesome community. Thank you all so very much for being yourself. You're great. Feel free to join that as well, all in the description below. But without further ado, let's go ahead and just check it right out. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take another look at Ethereum Classic. Now, I covered this one yesterday, of course, just to kind of get an idea of what's going on to establish support and resistance levels. Here today, we're going to look at that as well to kind of see if it's still in that channel or if it's considering to break out. I was asked by my community to cover this one daily for a little while, so that's the main reason here. Before we get started, though, I always look at Ethereum and Bitcoin to get a baseline of what's going on in the market, because obviously we saw that large sell-off recently. I like to show how that reflects the price action on Ethereum Classic in this example, and obviously just kind of touch on Ethereum as well so we know what's going on there too, because those are two of the strongest, biggest, largest coins in the industry. Okay, so let's take a look here. First things first is Bitcoin. So let's look at Bitcoin, and I turned off all the moving averages just so we can kind of see the big picture. This is a 4-hour chart. In fact, I'll try to get a little zoomed in here. And what we can see obviously is the major sell-off here recently, right? One tweet to rule them all, right? It just goes goes to crap in a matter of 6 to 4 hours, 4 to 6 hours in that range there. Don't love the fact that that happens, right? Bitcoin is a strange beast, and unfortunately, that happened, and obviously the price came back down, and we're looking at now a new support level potentially at about 47,500. Price action has been kind of normal. This is standard for when it recovers. You saw the same thing happen here. Major dip, strong ramp back up, period of consolidation followed by another increase. So hopefully we see the same thing here, come back up. But this ridiculous pattern that's happening is just annoying. I'm sorry, I'm frustrated by it. I think it's just terrible. Bitcoin cannot seem to make its mind up. Are you bullish? Are you bearish? Figure it out, right? We need to know. But anyways, that's what's going on here right now. Just note also to the previous support level, which I thought was a good support at 53,300 is right here. That's now a resistance level. And the same thing with 57,000 and 59,500. So if the price comes back up here into this channel and it breaks up and tests this here again, we'll likely see it come above and hold the 59,500 range, because this was tested about 6 or 7 times. So you can tell the price is trying to come above there. But with all the news recently, there's no wonder why it sold off. Okay. So that's what's going on with Bitcoin there. Just to enable quickly the moving averages, they're all hovering right around 56,000. So again, we got a lot of room to grow, a lot of, because obviously we've 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 resistance levels and 1 support. It doesn't bode well for Bitcoin right now, but it's not in a terrible situation. We're not in dire straits because everything else is essentially recovering like it normally does. In fact, a lot of altcoins are doing very well right now, considering the fact that Bitcoin did this, because the average true range for those coins was supposed to be much higher than it is right now. All the panic selling causes a state of hysteria. It's just stupid, the whole thing. Anyways, that's what Bitcoin looks like. This is a 4-hour chart. And again, once more, I'm using the Binance application. This is TradingView within Binance. So if you use the Binance application, just on the top right here, you click TradingView, and that's how you find it, right? It's default to original, but TradingView works a little bit better. That's the case there. So moving on to Ethereum. So looking at Ethereum here, same scenario. This is a 4-hour chart. As you can tell, not Bitcoin proof. It did sell off, and the price increased again here. So it is following Bitcoin pretty much to a T right now. But just know that when Bitcoin sells off, Ethereum tends to do a lot better because people sell their Bitcoin for Ethereum. All right. So that's kind of the case there. So that's why you see this big increase here when Bitcoin was not really sure what to do with itself. So that's kind of how that works. Let's move on to Ethereum Classic. Really quick before, just a note, Ethereum is at 4,000 right now, and the most recent all-time high is about 4,370. So Ethereum Classic, let's take a look at the one-day chart first. Now, I always look at one-day chart first because it just helps us with the perspective of the overall industry. Main reason I look at Bitcoin and Ethereum first as well, to just know kind of how those are moving and to see how there's a connection, right? If there is a connection. Obviously there is, because Ethereum Classic was selling off, and as you can see here, right in this range, this is right about when Bitcoin sold off. So it tested its previous support line. Thankfully that held at roughly about $82. And it's working itself into this channel right now between 82 and 110. So 110 is a pretty strong resistance, but it's been tested a few times. It will likely be broken and it'll work as a new support. We'll see that here in a moment, but I just wanted to note that that's kind of what we're looking at here. Let's take a quick look at the moving averages. Big surprise, they're all significantly lower than the price action. It will be like this for a while. We cannot rely on the moving averages on the one-day chart. Honestly, we don't want to rely on them anyways. It just gives us kind of a baseline on overall what's going on. But I can tell you that this isn't nothing to worry about right now. 4-hour chart's probably the most reflective of how important a moving average is. And again, those are the 50, 100, and 200-day moving averages, by the way. Those are the ones that I use that work the best on the 4-hour chart. Moving on, we're looking at let's look at the RSI and MACD just before we move on. Again, I don't put a lot of weight in these either, but it does tell us overall that the price is neither oversold or overbought. So the average true range is essentially in this channel right now, and if it breaks up above, just be mindful the RSI might peak up over as well. So what we're hoping for now is this short period of consolidation before it breaks out. That way the price action can continue on a steady pattern instead of this major violent increase that we all saw. Yes, that was fun, that was exciting, but if anyone got in over $110, it was very frustrating, right? I add to my position over 110. That was unfortunate. Thankfully, I had a good amount underneath, and my average is still below, but it's still equally as upsetting because of the fact that when it goes up that fast, that quick, there has to be retracement. So I love to see that, but I also don't like it when a price goes that fast. I'll explain what I mean by that, but just know that you would much rather see a consistent increase instead of a major violent significant increase. I mean, obviously if you sell at the top, that'd be great, you buy at the bottom, but it doesn't always work out that way, right? Otherwise, let's move on. Quickly note, MACD is trending downward, which basically tells us that it's not bearish sentiment, but it looks like it's trending towards neutral. So when those lines kind of hang out with each other and don't intersect, then that basically just means that there's kind of a state of indecision and the price action is kind of just continuously averaging itself out. All right. So looking at the VWAP here, looking at the 4-hour chart, I just turned off the VWAP because that really doesn't matter on the 4-hour chart. I really only focus on the moving averages here. So just to quickly note, and this is interesting to see here, first of all, we've got the support and resistance levels here, right? Marked those a while ago. They've been working very consistently. So again, support is about $81 is a rough estimate, and resistance is 110. So it's got this, this $30 price range that it's working within. But good news is it tested this line and was rejected. So that's actually a good thing. You'd be surprised. We want that to happen so the RSI stays low and it's not considered overbought. It will likely break through this when it does. And Ethereum has a tendency of breaking strongly through everything. So if you look here, this major increase here, that was at the time, that was a support and resistance level. This major one here, same thing. It has a tendency of just kind of consolidating and out of nowhere, out of the blue, it just ramps right up. Which is neither good nor bad, it's kind of just the nature of it, but it's just something to be mindful of, but it's in this channel here. Furthermore, the 50-day moving average was working as a support, lost support on the 12th, big surprise. This is the Bitcoin sell-off right here. So just note this here, here's another cool thing about this. That's why we look at Bitcoin first. You see the sell-off here that was caused by a Bitcoin. That wouldn't have happened if Bitcoin didn't sell off, right? So let's say Bitcoin was averaging its price and doing its normal thing at that time. We would likely see the price in this range right here. So I'm not surprised that the price ramped up right here and it's cooling down, and will not be surprised if it ramps back up again, because the average true range should be much higher than it's at right now. Okay, so just something to be mindful of. This 50-day moving average should be working as a support. It's presently a resistance, but I don't put a lot of weight in that because of the fact that Bitcoin sold off, and I do feel like the overall sentiment is that the price should be somewhere between 110 and maybe 130. So I think that might be some good news for you. Furthermore, the 100-day moving average did work as a support level. I don't put a tremendous amount of weight on that either, because that should have never been tested in the first place based on the fact that Bitcoin had sold off, or should have never sold off in the first place, right? So it's something to be mindful of. Looking at the RSI as well, we can see that the RSI is kind of right in the center, which is great. Even though we had this massive price increase, it was so close to 30 that it's not even anywhere near 70 right now, based on the simple fact that the price was considered to be oversold for so long. It should have never gotten this low, honestly. The lowest it should have ever gotten was probably like 95. Okay. So again, just something to note. MACD is trending upwards, which is a good sign. This is usually a sign that you look for as a swing trader when the lower line intersects with the upper line and kind of goes above. That's typically a buy signal for a long position if you're planning to hold for over 30 days, right? Because that tells you that essentially the sentiment has shifted from bearish to bullish, and that you should expect to see some type of price increase moving forward. Okay, and again, depending on how Bitcoin decides it wants to behave, will essentially determine this. But good news is Ethereum Classic has ramped back up significantly. I mean, what is that kind of increase here? So from Bitcoin's low to the current price action, it's like a 42% increase in the last 24 hours. It's really not bad. It seems like it's not very much considering how much it moved up here, but that's actually a lot of movement that just happened recently. So again, that's the reason why I think it's a good thing that the price is where it's at, and it's not going crazy bonkers again, because we want the price action to calm down. We want it to be a continuous higher highs with short periods consolidation in between. That's the only way for a bull run to be successful for a long time. So if we're going to test the previous all-time high of 180, that we really want to see that happen. So be happy in the fact that it's consolidating right in now, and it hasn't broke that resistance level, because it likely will soon. Look at the 15-minute chart here. So this is, as you can see, it's trying to test it. It might even consider testing it again soon, but preferably we'd see it work itself into a channel and then break upwards. RSI is under 70, which is good right now, but just note, see that the RSI picked up over 70 because the price action moved up so quickly that it had to come down and retraced. It wasn't a major retracement, maybe $5-6, but it was still enough to notice, right? And this is how you can tell the bulls are still in play. The retracement didn't come down, because normally a retracement will happen about 50% of the difference. In other words, if you go from this initial start of the run to where the price is at right now, roughly right there to here, that's that 40%. But what should happen, like a normal retracement would eventually come back down to about halfway there, like the 20% range of that 40% increase. So with it being up here in the top, top 1 quarter, essentially the top 25% of that price action, that's a good sign. That tells me that the bulls are still in control, and that the likelihood of the price increasing after another brief period of consolidation is fairly high. So I do think that this resistance level will be tested and broken, and likely work as a support moving forward. Other than that, not much else to note. The volume is fairly consistent, which is nice. That's the thing I like about Ethereum Classic. It has a lot of volume. Granted, we had tons of volume there, but even in this period of consolidation and sell-off, the volume has been fairly consistent. And that's a good sign. That's really something you want to see, because I put a lot of weight into volume. I think volumes is a very underrated indicator in trading, specifically with when it comes to altcoins, because the lower the volume, the crazier the volatility, you could say, because the fact that you never truly know. You don't want to invest in something that's constantly quiet and then just wakes up and explodes and it goes back to being quiet again. You want something that's consistent with the volume each and every day, because that way you can find good entry points, and there's shorter spread, so to speak. Either way, that's a conversation for another day. So let's just go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and transition from our moving averages, because the 50, 100, and 200-day moving averages don't really work super well on this time frame. Because the 15-minute chart, you want to use more of an EMA line and a volume weighted average price. So we're going to turn those on. And just a note too, if you're new to the channel, the volume weighted average price is just essentially the volume in the last 24 hours averaged out as a price. So essentially right now, based on the average volume in the last 24 hours, which again is mostly bearish, that's the reason why it's so low, is the fact that the price should be at $93. That's what the volume's telling us. Now there's a difference in price there, right? So if we see this variance between these two, That's over 20%. So when I see that difference, plus the RSI being over 70, that usually is a cause for concern for me. I like to either trim off the top or pay close attention to see what the price action is doing, and then set a support level for me that I'm comfortable with, my risk tolerance, to essentially be able to either sell it off or to consider selling it before it gets too low. But what I'm getting at here is when you see a big variance between the VWAP and the price action, and the RSI is being over 70, that's usually an indication of a retracement. Now we did see that retracement here, but it came down and bounced off of the EMA. So look at this. Came up, retraced, bounced off, and held its EMA line. So it's like a secondary support. EMA is nice because, again, it's an exponential moving average that works as a support level, and of course resistance too. But as you can see in a bullish market here, bullish trend, it consistently comes down and stays above this line. There's a slight variance, it's not that much, but it keeps coming up, comes down and tests the EMA. So this tells me that we are still very much in a bullish trend. It may not ramp up immediately soon, it might consolidate a little further, but I do think it's getting prepared and ready to break out in an upward fashion here just above the 110 mark. Okay, so just be mindful of that. The EMA line is excellent. It's my second best friend next to the VWAP, because for day trading I use the VWAP almost exclusively, and then of course the EMA is like just a reaffirmation of letting you know what the trend is at that time. And it only works on smaller time frames. You can't use the EMA really very effectively on the 4-hour and 1-day chart. The 15 to the 1-minute chart is the best, and the same thing with the VWAP as well. So they're more like day trader, short-term swing trader tools, whereas the moving averages work really well on the larger time frames because it gives you a perspective again on the big picture, which is why we work our way up, from the top to the bottom, right? Either way, let's go ahead and look at the one minute chart and see if we can identify a good entry point. Look at that, there we go, getting some action going there. But just to quickly note too, again, VWAP, price action, almost 20% difference. That is still a little concerning, but again, the fact that it's a consistent, we're consistently making higher highs and higher lows, tells me that the price action should continue upwards. So really, on the 1 minute chart, you only have two things you can use. You could use the EMA line, which is my only recommendation really, or you could use a Fibonacci retracement tool. So just to kind of throw this out here, to use a retracement tool effectively, you find the lowest point after retracement, which is, this is the highest point, retrace back down here to the lowest before it went up. So we go right here, and we put this at the top. Again, this isn't super effective when the price action keeps hitting higher highs, at least recent highs, but you can kind of see here that, this tells us kind of the major support and resistance levels. Now, I don't put a ton of weight into this myself personally. I much rather use my own support lines, my own resistance levels, and also, of course, the EMA line. But this can give you kind of perspective on, again, resistance levels, support levels. It is creating its own little, levels, if you will. And these are the things that the industry standards are going to be using. So if you want to try to understand, what the people that are actually truly controlling the price action are doing, they're looking at charts like this. Again, just kind of puts yourself in their mindset. I don't recommend using this as essentially an exclusive tool. Some people put too much weight into it. Personally, I think it's a little overrated, but it can be effective when the price action is as severe as we've seen recently, when there's no immediate support and resistance levels. But of course, we did identify that already. 110 right here, this line here, is the current resistance, right? The price is trying to push itself up to that level. So I wouldn't be surprised again if it tests again, possibly rejects and consolidates, or breaks through and breaks through hard. We might actually see that here soon, but suffice to say, I don't want to sit here and just ramble while we wait for the price action to do that. I'll actually have an opportunity moving forward soon. Within the next couple weeks, I'm actually going to start doing live streams, probably on the weekends. And then what I'll do is I'll essentially be able to review the charts real time, and you can make your recommendations and requests on which charts you want me to cover. Because that would be kind of an opportunity for me to kind of help educate a little better, but also more so not worry about time, because I can't make this like a 40-minute video on just waiting for the price action to test the resistance level. But I do speculate again, it'll either test and reject and consolidate a little further, which would be just fine, by the way, that'd be a good sign, or it'll test and break through and eventually continue upwards using this as a support level. Okay, it's just a matter of time. If it doesn't happen right now, be patient, it's okay. It'll happen eventually, because again, the price action should be a lot, in this range here, the 110 to 130, because of, just just everything that we see so far, right? Especially the way that they responded to the Bitcoin sell-off, like it's right back to where we left off. So I do think it's a very strong likelihood it'll continue to go upwards. So if you found that beneficial, like and subscribe if you haven't already. Join our Telegram community. Feel free to support me on Patreon. And just know that we're all going to continue to learn and grow together here. And you're not alone, right? We're in this together. We can do this. One day at a time, right? So just make it one green day at a time. So thank you so much for your time. We'll look forward to seeing you in the next video. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you.